How are all you delicious people? So, AEW Dynamite, I'm going to be talking about that first. So, we have a colorful barrage of certain characters that I guess at some point we were supposed to see. I'm going to talk about the first 7 weeks of AEW Dynamite. If anything, theme song, great. If anything, uh, there were some interesting matches, but most of the ones that probably stick out are probably the Chris Jericho Darby Allin match, and maybe there is a star that was really good. This whenever you got to see him, Sammy Guevara was really talented, and the whole Panda Bear thing that he came out with the first time out, and then they quickly just changed him to just have a leather jacket the whole time. Like, okay, didn't that kind of didn't we kind of go personas is a big thing here. Having someone stick out is a big thing here, and not everyone does. Not everyone did. And I ultimately loved from the females Jamie Hayter. I thought her character which would she would be putting fingers in people's mouths. I'm like, well, I guess that's a weird way to stand out. Or the boohoo crying thing, I guess, was kind of interesting. But here's the problem: how am I gonna know who's a heel and who's a baby? Who's a heel and who's a baby face? Um, I guess you would have to figure a bunch of people rushing in to fight against the inner circle. I guess the inner circle is the only real heels out of this whole company, because that's clearly stated that the inner circle are heels, and maybe I guess Cody Rhodes is a baby face. Uh, I guess. So we have a tour, I guess, ultimately, if people could say, well, no, the actual pay-per-views are actually better than the weekly shows, or hey, go on to AEW Dark, watch some dark matches as well as with this. Oh, go on to so-and-so website and see the rankings of all of everybody and root on the person that has the highest ranking, or go on to a Facebook, or go on to an Instagram, or go on to so-and-so thing to see the list of every single rostered person. And I'm like, why couldn't they have just had an app for this the entire time? Have it to be that I could get an AEW roster of everyone, and I could watch that at a flip of a button. I can be completely well known of every single person on the show, because it seems like all of these people come from somewhere. It obviously feels like that, because if you go like this, what does that mean? Well, Bullet Club, well, that's what Kenny's known for. But brand new company. Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes do a promo where they're talking about how long this was to get, how many years that they've wrestled and this and that for a brand new company. I'm a little confused. How like I guess you can kind of quasi like at some point take a certain portion of ownership for certain things, which is fine. Um, and say like, well, that's because Cody Rhodes is so and so vice president or so and so rung of the company, and Brandy is so and so title of so and. I don't need the David Copperfield variation of stuff. I don't need to tell you. I don't need to like be told like, yeah, Statue of Liberty. What they did was is they took a black blanket over the Statue of Liberty, a giant black blanket, and that's how you didn't see the Statue of Liberty. Isn't that great? I I don't need to have that. I just like I just want to see it like okay, like this is a brand new thing and I want something new. I want to get to know these people. And like there's like I think there should have been like there's sometimes where you would get like a Kenny Omega promo and talking to John Moxley, or you would get like Cody Rhodes doing a promo on Chris Jericho talking about like, oh yeah, like hey, like Chris Jericho wrote a book, it's in on Amazon, it's for $3, and like I guess you can like know the reference to this person's career. But there's also like finishing and signature moves that like are just like, yeah, that's a Vader bomb. Who is that? Who is that? Well, yeah, the Vader bomb. Yeah, that's done by so and so female wrestler. Like, okay, and like SoCal Uncensored was obviously doing like a like seemingly a DX like intro. Like you have Christopher Daniels that is like this ringmaster, and there's some people that I think were watching SoCal Uncensored the first time that they went out and did this promo, and they're like, huh? like like what? And recently you had like Christopher Daniels was like, yeah, let me hear you, and like recently the people are just like, yeah, like, and it's like, no, I need to, and they're like, oh, I don't know, was it like were these things like shot ahead of time? Or was everything from day one shot ahead of time? And so like eventually like it was weird to see like some people like starting to turn on people. Like some people were booing in some stuff, and like I was just like, man, this like, and it wasn't even for like heel moments. Um, it was just booing. They're like Orange Cassidy, like we had him like like they I guess were starting to have people like go like every time he would do these little kicks, like people are just like ooh 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 and like doing the whole like funny thing, and I guess eventually you're gonna have people rally against Orange Cassidy because of of a YouTube video, and I'm like, but what about the weekly show? What about the week? Well, we're gonna have that. Believe me, like we didn't know any of these stars were gonna be stars. We just like hope for the best. Well, yeah, but every like looking at it, the people that you plucked, the people that you picked, you've known for probably years. They've been on other segments. They've been on other stuff. And you, who have picked any number of these people, when going into this now, It's like, well, yeah, I know people are gonna love this guy. So they know. They know that these announcers are gonna work. They know that these wrestlers are gonna work. They know that certain people are, I guess, going to be big stars, and they should know what works. But is it not like, are they just going to say it's like, well, it's a weekly, like we were going through town to town to town, and it won't work on everybody. Not everything landed, and people were just like, Pac. Some interesting things. So Pac came in, and he came in as the bastard. I guess Game of Thrones. Awesome Kong came in as a Charlie's Angels villain, because if you guys remember the very first Charlie's Angels movie, uh, you had it to where the villain in that one would cut people's hair and then like sniff it and whiff it. I guess, I guess you could ultimately say it's like, well, yeah, eventually something is gonna come from some movie somewhere. I'm like, well, yeah. Uh, so are we gonna have in Charlie's Angels 2? Are we gonna have um, somebody? Are we gonna have Drew Barrymore come in here and ask where are the rings? Where are the rings? I don't know. Like, there was some fun like Rick and Morty days, which I thought were kind of fun. Uh, Jay and Silent Bob were there at some point, and they had to like showcase that they were there by doing a spot for them. Uh, and really, there were really some spot moments where you could kind of hear people mention some stuff, some moves. So it's kind of like, okay, so this is that's kind of weird. Like it's not as bad as the one moment where like Luke Harper in WWE was telling Ronan to block something, but like you could kind of see that some of these like some of the times where there were some issues with like, okay, some camera angles, or like if somebody doesn't clearly have an entrance, maybe like do a promo instead. Are they good with promos? Well, no. Well, did they not have an interesting entrance? Well, no. Well, then basically the times of which that you have a commercial break, just have this person come out, maybe with no music, just have them stroll out to the ring, ba 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 ba, and have that time eaten up. The time that you are away, with ultimately having somebody walk to the ring, and you could show them walking the ring, ba 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 ba, because they don't have any entrance music, or they don't have a like basically like the person who doesn't have a unique entrance could just be like, yeah, hey, hi everybody, like I'm on TV technically, even though I don't have a ring thing or whatever. I don't have any. Like there was sometimes where like you'd have like Jamie Hayter that ultimately was like making her way up to the actual like steel steps, making it up to the um making it up to the ring, and then okay, here's her name. And I was like, okay, I guess you've already like mentioned uh some other wrestlers. Like it feels like not everybody, like I didn't get to know everybody. And then okay, hey, new champion. Okay, all right. I guess there's a lot more there's a lot more pay-per-views than there is anything else, I guess. So I guess I should just go to the pay-per-views. Um, which is kind of weird to have a like yeah, there's a lot more pay-per-views. They're better action and like a lot of the like the a lot of the weekly shows you won't get to know anybody, so go through the paper. Because that's my thing. I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to watch this product. And if it's basically, hey, no, don't even watch any of the pay per views. Don't go into watching the weekly segments. Just watch the YouTube channel. Being the elite, and that's all you'll need to know. That's all the stars. That's all every. That's all everything that you'll need to know. And I'm like, well, man, that is really like that's really condensing everything down. Like that's weird to condense everything, and it's like, okay, well, this is the real thing that you should just watch because everyone like it's this company's early and they're gonna showcase the best product in a pay per view, and the weekly things are just gonna just be there and hope that the ratings are awesome. Um, because they are and they still are. Because rarely do you have it to where um, you have them beating out in. There's a lot of stars that they got like Brody Lee and Matt Hardy and Revival that end up coming later. So should I just watch the later product then? Because I'm familiar with those names. I Ultimate has seen certain segments coming through somewhere mentioning about, oh my god, this character is now in AEW. Okay, well, all right. So go through the times that people look tired to make your way there, because a lot of people look tired in these matches, and because it's just a weekly thing, it doesn't need to look the best, which is weird. And like there were some interesting segments where they had like just Chris Jericho like shining his belt, and Sammy Guevara was like, "Oh yeah," like those could have been like promo segments, but like instead it was just kind of like, "Okay, here's backstage," and like they're doing this and like ba 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 to fill time. Um, because ultimately there's nobody walking to the ring and having like no real entrance music. Um, we have like Riho that was the women's champion, and I don't even know if I'm saying that. I don't know why Riho was the champion. Was it just work rate? Was it well we're waiting for this person to take the title? Because anytime I would see Riho, I'm like, okay, is she just like? Was it that everybody just kind of like loved her through certain pay per view matches? And like, but even like tag team, like when eventually SoCal eventually had the titles, SoCal Uncensored was like, okay, well, they had like a whole tag team tournament, which that was really interesting. And like that tag team tournament was on a weekly thing. And then I guess eventually it's like, oh yeah, now we finally crowned the people on the pay per view. Like we had to take a couple tag team matches to do on this pay per view, and now we crowned the very first uh, Tag team champion. Okay, sure, all right. Couldn't we have why did we have Chris Jericho consistently showing the tag or the world AEW championship? Seemed like he was always on there, but then okay, just I guess the Soul Collins says okay, I guess they're just now the champions. I guess okay, sure, all right, as soon as any championship should have been crowned, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna showcase it, and I don't feel like that always was done. Or maybe there's updates where it's like, hey, if you didn't know, check out this thing to see the very first crowning of these champions in this pay per view. Dot 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 dot. Um, Again, you could have a whole thing showcasing who are all the champions right now on an app and say, okay, like you can count down the ranking, you can have them oh, they were X amount of days as champion so far, blah 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 blah. You could, I know that's a lot of work, but then also you could just say the date of when they were champions. You don't have to do me a count up of people will do the math. People could crack out a calculator. It's just if no one knows who all your champions are, why do they matter every week? Uh, that's the thing. A lot of people will just say, well, just wait till the AEW video game comes out, then you'll know every roster, you'll know every person, you know every finisher, and this and that. Wait till the mobile game GM mode comes out that I know is coming out that looks pretty sweet. And so reasonably just again wait for that. Which ultimately, eventually, when that GM mode comes out on mobile, I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for that to come out because I'm actually excited about that. Um, that'll be great. I can't wait for that to GM because AE Games or AEW Games. Yeah, the whole promo of on a YouTube thing of them talking about AEW through that and AEW Games. It's great that they have that coming down the pipeline somewhere, working 24 hours a day to do games and mobile stuff. Huzzah! But anyway, so and I wonder how much they had to pay for to get used. Probably not a lot, but anyways, so everybody comes from everything. Nobody quite has a persona, really. You have some people doing the same things 2 weeks in a row. If anything, who has a real persona in this company? Well, I would probably have to say Dr. Britt Baker has a persona. I would probably say that John Moxley has persona. I think Chris Jericho has a persona. Um, Pac maybe has a persona. Who else? Young Bucks maybe have a persona. That's maybe. Sammy Guevara has charisma, which is a persona, I guess. So, you could say, well, what about Darby Allin? He's very passionate and half a face covered. Yeah, but like I guess that's a persona. I guess, like what is the blurry line between persona and not persona? Because I guess you'd have to have a clear cut definition and just ultimately like, yeah, persona is this, and this everybody has one. Like you could say probably Adam Page has a persona just because cowboy. That's that's not giving me like, well, go on being the elite. Watch Adam Page there. Watch Young Bucks there. You'll get everything. You'll get like being the elite. So that's my frustration. It's just we have a weekly product that's coming out every week, and but go somewhere else. Go somewhere. Um, like I'll go somewhere else for the roster. I guess I'll go for some website. I guess. Uh, Hopefully that website has an image of every single person. Oh, you don't? That's gonna suck. So Nyla Rose is the face of AEW Dynamite, but she showed up week 7. Well, doing press for the show. So instead of us getting like, shouldn't we have been getting like vignettes, or like shouldn't we be getting promo packages of somebody that you slapped on some post or the show? Shouldn't we have been getting that? Like if you wanna have like commercial breaks and whatever, shouldn't there have been uh like, hey, get like, if you want to do like breakaway, you can be like, hey, like have it be a segment where it's like it showcases like get to know our stars, and like you have a photo of like like they, yeah, it'll probably seem like a screensaver like thing going on, but like if anything, if you have commercial breaks and you do that where it's like, hey, get to know our stars like Nyla Rose, get to know John Moxley, get to know Chris Jericho, like a slapping of a name next to a picture during a commercial break would be one great thing when there isn't a match already going on like that. Like there were so many segments that I think were just like, oh, you have Cody Rhodes walking in today, you have Chris Jericho shining his belt. Instead of having those, you could have honestly just like, hey, get to know our stars, and like have like a little screensaver like moment where it's like telling us about Dr. Britt Baker or some other unknown that we don't get to see that week. um but maybe again you might have people fighting over, well, I want to be the screensaver this week, I want to be the star of this show, and I'm not the screensaver. What the f, why am I not the screensaver? Well, the people should be reminded like when someone isn't there. If someone's there that week, then no screensaver. But there are some times where I feel like there are like, have a person do a promo and not have them get interrupted. Have a match that like isn't just like somebody getting like just beaten up to have somebody like show up to save them. Don't do run-ins. Please don't do run-ins. Though I never liked those, and I think AEW did that a lot. Just running like things. Um, I think the most current thing that I've seen is it seems like every time I turn around, I hear that AEW is putting together another faction. Oh, we're gonna put together Neville and Pentagon Junior and Phoenix. Okay, sure. We're just put all three of those guys together. I don't know why, but just put them together. Well, we're gonna have being the elite is gonna add like 20 more people to it. Giant faction. Okay, so why are those 20 other people gonna be in the elite? Well, like because they can't do promos and Kenny is going to do the promos for all those 20 other people. Man, that's going to be exhausting for Kenny. Like there was one time where you had Proud and Powerful and they were doing a match and Kenny was talking or Kenny Chris Jericho was talking about Pride and Powerful and how great they were. And I was like, what? I'm like, why is this going on? Shouldn't this be a moment for Pride and Powerful? Here's the thing. We have certain segments that, like, broken record themselves, which I thought was weird. Uh, Talking about Pride and Powerful, like, there's 2 weeks in a row where one of the Pride and Powerful, I think it was Hernandez, like took like a sock with rocks and smacked people with it. Oh yeah, and then eventually they had to twice power bomb somebody into the stage for 2 weeks, as if they really wanted to get some usage out of that. There is Orange Cassidy for like 2 weeks was double kicking a person, and then Pac eventually like smacks him, and then Orange Cassidy drops. I guess the second time around, I guess that's funny, but shouldn't that have happened the first time? Or like, why did you have to do 2 weeks of that? It's like, well, to show off this stuff. There is a weird rotation going on that I'm ultimately seeing where it feels like, okay, we're going to book these two people in two different locations for 2 weeks. So it kind of feels like the roster is like you're going to have a lot of people for the pay per views, but any other time, like they're going to really schedule these people out and having like, okay, Evil Unos, like you're gonna be here for these 2 weeks and then see you for a month. Uh, we're gonna have uh, Pentagon Junior and Phoenix go and uh, do commentary on the Spanish announce table. SoCal Uncensored will be doing commentary on them, watching over whoever, and there's the thing. Yeah, I guess watching over like, oh yeah, these are the people to look out for. These are the talents that ultimately we're gonna see eventually be crowned the first tag team champions. Okay, sure. So we're gonna have a ton of people all do commentary everywhere for this one match, and we're gonna have Chris Jericho be stalking over an entire day because the inner circle has tickets somewhere. We're gonna have a runs in of 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 Dusty, and Cody, and 2 to 3 other people, and it's gonna change every time. But those are gonna be the babies. Those are gonna be the baby faces. MJF is gonna come in 7 weeks after this show, even though he was pressed to be the face of this show and do a promo, and then with Chris Jericho, and then he's gonna leave again. Couldn't I have seen one match with MJF? Because I haven't seen MJF do anything on the TV. Nyla Rose did a squash match, and then she left. Uh, John Moxley, I've been completely fine with because he's been doing other things that I thought were really cool. Putting people through freaking glass or supposedly glass tables, which I thought was cool. Everything that John Moxley does has been really cool and has been really awesome, and I've really enjoyed that. The whole time limit thing between him and Pac, where eventually he is uh like, dude, I don't care about the time limit, and like he's just stalking people. Like, what's going on? Like, that was great. I love that. um we have we have in these moments sometimes where you can invest in people, and like they're trying to do, I think they were trying to do some like unsanctioned matches and stuff like that, and I think at some points they're also like going with time limits, of course, with that. And so, but it's not like you could honestly see the time limits anywhere when you're watching any of these. It's really just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a 20-minute match. It's like, well, it's not like there's a counter anywhere, because more than likely, if you probably saw a New Japan thing, like there probably is a time limit. And so I guess you would have to have the Justin, who's the announcer, tell everybody, oh, there's 5 minutes left, or oh, there's 2 minutes left, or oh, there's 1 minute left. But everything is easily paced to. So the only time that Justin is going to mention a time limit about anything is when there is obviously a match that is gonna like go over that time period or whatever. Is just, there's a lot of early stuff with this. There's times where there's some moves that doesn't quite look tight enough. That uh, you had the Private Party Hurricane Rana thing where uh, one of the Private Party was doing a match with Evil Uno, and like the Hurricane Rana going out to have the person being shoved out to be having the finisher move with Private Party ended up looking like the guy was pushing off to from the top rope instead of having the person hurricane them off. It obviously looks planned. It does. There's some moves that most of the time doesn't look planned, but that one does at some points. Camera angles, there's some stuff where it's just like Jack Hager, like obviously like realizing he had to catch Sammy Hagar with that, like, and then to eventually be waiting on like, oh, I guess we should wait for somebody to come down, and like that's where we start having these spots of everybody like jumping off ropes, suicide diving, um like you're getting a lot of stars that, or you're getting a lot of characters that we are easily going to know, like, oh, okay, well, this star is a top rope guy. Okay, well, obviously you're gonna see so many like spots of them suicide diving or uh, doing all these coffin drops uh, like Darby Allen does, and like coffin drop, interesting. Um, that was kind of cool to see that kind of move. And like, there's some stuff where it's fine, where like reasonably you get so many things where it's just like, oh well, like yeah, of course these moves have a name for stuff, so we're just gonna call them that. That's fine. That's great. There's some stuff where it's like Vader bombs, or like, so there's not really a name for that. It's just like, we'll just like reference some wrestler. There's some stuff where it's, I guess it's just like, well, this is the new Japan over in America, and there's some growing pains, there's some early stuff, and so that's what we should take away from this. Um, I I liked the whole intro of Jimmy Havoc and Darby Allen. Um, I don't quite know how I felt about there was like a bunch of like, there were some interesting things in those matches, in that match. Then you never saw Jimmy Havoc again. But you every once in a while saw Darby Allen, and so like there was some like stars where I'm like, yeah, you're probably not going to see them for a month, or you'll probably never see them. They're contracted, but well, like this person was actually wrestling for this company while also being with contracted with all the wrestling. Or John Moxley was actually also wrestling with New Japan while doing all of the. That's why you never really got to see him on the weeklies. Like, I realize that, and I know that, but uh, I'm not saying I need to see John Moxley every week. I'm not saying I need to see Chris Jericho every week. I'm not saying, like, if you're only going to see these people twice a month, especially if they're new, especially if they're brand new, um, like, are action figures just going to be a thing to get to know these people? To only say that there's only a handful of stars that are going to be action figured? Like, it seems like AEW, there's only just a small portion of people you should get to know and invest in because they've already had a YouTube channel, or they've like they've been like from somewhere that like catapulted them to now be AEW's big star. Not saying WWE rejects or whatever they stupidly go in and call that, which is perfectly fine. Uh, if that's what they want to call that, because anyways, um, like I don't want to try to be negative about this because it's still early, even though it's 7 weeks is more than a month, but it's a 1 week thing, and they're still airing things out, I guess. Um, Interest music, I guess, can just be what it is. You're not going to have uh, bought copyrights for 8 bajillion songs and have a person that is only going to be there, I guess, for just 2 weeks, have them have a entrance song to pay the rights for, because that's probably expensive, right? I guess. I guess that's what that's going to be then. I want to see eventually where, because recently I think also like the way that these episodes are shot, because I know Tony Khan had mentioned this, where like basically a lot of people didn't know early on how to really invest with AEW. Like some people were just kind of like, I'm not sure, I'm kind of on the fence. And so maybe when TNT actually signed a big contract deal for this, then um, then it was like, okay, well, maybe actually now we should really put money into this, and maybe I should wait to the last episode and just watch that, and just be like, wow, look at all this has drastically changed. I guess. I'm still trying to decipher where is the best approach. And I know some people might just say, "Oh, only watch this one match." So we're greatest hits, greatest hits hanging out. Just go on YouTube and just watch. Hey, just watch Moxley versus Kenny Omega, the the death match or whatever they called it, the hardcore crazy match. Just watch that. Eventually, like I saw Luchasaurus eventually make his appearance. Um, Interesting visuals, kind of like the trying to figure out, okay, like three guys. You have Jungle Boy and you have I think Marty and Luchasaurus. So that's three people. Factions. Yeah, so many factions in in eventually everyone's going to be a faction, I guess. Is what is going to happen. So I guess that's all I have to say for these first 7 episodes. There wasn't me going over every match in detail. There wasn't a lot of stuff to be said going into it's just a kind of me just going, okay, like this is early, and maybe I'm gonna have to watch like pay-per-views because I'm just like, okay, where's the big like persona part? It's like, well, there isn't ever going to be one until X day, and then everybody's going to be like built up really good, and then like everyone like you'll be happy about that. Um, I don't want to say that I'm not on I'm not raging or I'm like I hate no, like I'm just kind of like, where is this going? Where are these persona? Where are the building of personalities going? Um, I guess slowly but surely through uh, carving of months, really like taking like small uh, chunks of time because I'm not saying like, yeah, give me Moxley every week, give me so and so character every single week. Like, if anything, it's just kind of like, okay, well, like, how am I supposed to know these characters if I don't even if I'm not familiar with the whole roster, um, and I don't want to go through a pay per view, or should I just go through pay per views? So that's all I'm gonna say. Some of this stuff might have sounded like a broken record, me just kind of going over things kind of quickly. But first 7 episodes, we'll get into more eventually because 7 episodes were just kind of the real appetizer, and eventually the ratings are probably going to had skyrocketed, and everything's going to be great. Everyone's going to love everything eventually. So I'll get there. So I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.